So again, thanks for coming. We have with us Coach Stacy. He's the guy who just left to go try to track down my kids. He's in charge of our infield group. We have Coach Jared Kovacs. He's in charge of our catchers. Coach Justin Lee, our hitting coach, couldn't make it out today. He had some family responsibilities. And Coach Ryan Curtis wasn't able to make it either. He went out of town for the weekend and actually got engaged. So I gave him the weekend off, so he doesn't have to come back for any of this. So I'll kind of fill in some of those, so you'll hear from me a little bit more than what I was anticipating, but that's okay. It's all kind of the same stuff, and we all work together pretty closely. So the first thing that we're going to work on is some hitting philosophy stuff. So a lot of the things that we do with these guys, we actually want started way, way earlier, right? So one of the big questions that people had for us before we had, when I sent the form out to a lot of people, said, hey, what do we have that are questions that are out there? And some people said, well, what are you seeing at the high school level? And what we're seeing is the same things we want your kids to be working on. The basic fundamentals are skipped and eliminated. So when we're getting kids as freshmen, we're having to kind of start over where we'd like to teach them at like 7, 8, 9, right? And that's not all of them. We get a lot of kids coming in that are really ready to compete and have played at a high level and show a high level of skill. But if you're talking the bulk of our program, and that's true for South and Central, so this is kind of across, is the base fundamentals are missed, right? We have a lot of really basic kinesthetic movements in baseball that we've got to work on. That and just overall athleticism. So you'll hear me talk later on, get the kids playing everything. Play everything all the time. You're gonna get older, and if the kids that are really interested in playing sports, they're often gonna be asked to specialize. I don't follow that mold, right? I get the more reps, the more opportunities and stuff like that. Maybe that's true if they get to be about 16, 17 and show real promise in something, but an 8, 9, 10-year-old, they shouldn't be playing baseball all year long, right? One, they're missing out on a lot of movements. We've got an epidemic of stiff hips in the city of Westerville, so I'd actually like the CDC to start to chime in on some of that and get that taken care of. We're stiff in the hips. A lot of it is because we don't have as many football and baseball players. We don't have as many basketball and baseball players where they learn the movements and the strength and the flexibility to be able to do that, right? So that's one of those things that I think is a big problem. And the other is the repetitive movements build up to more injuries, right? So what we see with baseball guys, we've had this a little bit, thankfully we've been really lucky to not have much issues with injuries at North while I've been here the last 14 years, is just overuse injuries, right? You get guys that just throw hot all year long and they're competitive 12 months out of the year, you're gonna get exhausted, right? Just like if you were working out, I mean, you're gonna plateau and then you're gonna have a down and you gotta rest and you gotta come back up. Your body needs that off period just as much. So we'll get back to talking hitting. Sorry, I went on a tangent. So the first thing that we wanna teach these guys is to be prepared before you're at bat, mentally and physically. So what that means for us, our at bat starts when we're in the hole. So you've got your batters up, on deck, in the hole. That's when it starts. That's the beginning of your at bat. You should be quiet somewhere at the corner of the dugout. If you need to get stretched or you need to swing a little bit, that's the time to do it. But you're looking to pick up release point, tips on a pitcher, all that kind of stuff. But the same thing starts when they're, starting at T-ball, which is it's tough to do, but we're talking like 6, 7, 8 years old of understanding when you're going to be coming to the plate and when you need to start to really pay attention and get your mind right so that you can be successful. On deck, we ask our guys to not really swing. All we want to do, and if you watch college or Major League Baseball, you'll see it. Just watch the guys on deck. They don't swing. All they're doing is just getting their timing down, making sure their front foot's down before the pitcher releases the ball so that they can have a quiet head to be able to attack and be successful. Okay? So we can start teaching that same thing. I mean, it's really easy. Just let the guys know all you're trying to do is go through your motion and make sure that foot's down before the pitcher releases the ball. Then you're going to be in good shape, right? So we get into trouble if we see, say, high velocity that we haven't seen before and that ball is being released before we get our foot down, we're too late. It's not going to happen. So it's just an easy thing, an easy tip to tell those young hitters. Be aggressive early in a count, right? When we get to the kid pitch type stuff, and I know we have quite a few that have asked questions, be aggressive early on. Hunt the fastballs, okay? And this is true whether it's baseball or softball. Don't worry about the rise balls, the drop balls, curve balls, anything like that. Get something straight, be on time with it, and go attack it and try to hurt it, right? Do a lot of hard work there. So be able to adjust to the off speed, that's being balanced. So if we're able to get that toe down before they throw it, I can also just be relaxed. I'm not moving. So we get a lot of guys that have a lot of movement as they're getting this down, they're trying to move everything else. And now you're getting, your hands are long, or you're pulling your front side out, or you're doing all these other things. You can go through and you have a really aggressive stance and swing without even moving your feet. Being able to just get your weight back and go. And we use the term here, load, to get your weight back. A lot of people will call it stretch or anything else, but we use load. And that just means we want to be able to now attack it, right? I always give these guys the example that it's like you're a boxer, you're getting ready to fight, right? You don't stand there and just go like this. You're gonna lose badly, right? That guy's wound up or gal and is throwing the ball hard at you. You need to be able to return that same type of power. Because if we just go from here to hit, it's not gonna go very far. They're gonna win that battle, okay? With 2 strikes, we ask our guys to shorten up, widen out. So we give them the idea that the first 2, unless the coaches have put something on, is for you. Swing hard, hurt a baseball, do some damage, drive it. If we're asking you to do something that's a little bit different, we're gonna hit and run, we're gonna bunt, something like that. But then once you get to the third strike is for the team. That's for everybody else, okay? Your job is to give up your ego, give up the hopes of hitting that home run, get wide, get short, and just move a baseball, okay? Because we go through all the data and the numbers and look at it, and you're in much better position putting the ball in play than striking out, right? You can't get on base really without moving the baseball. So that's what we ask them to do. And then every swing has a purpose. What are we trying to do with it? This is probably for a little bit older ball players, but what is your situation? What can you help your team accomplish by hitting a ball the backside, laying down a bunt? Whenever you get in there, how can you help us be successful? So the 3 main keys that we focus on when we talk about hitting mechanics is get loaded, right? So as that pitcher is getting wound up to throw, we as a hitter need to get rocked back in a powerful position, be on time. That's the on deck stuff. That's getting the toe down and being ready to go. Okay, so we get our weight back, our toes down before that ball is released, and then get on plane. So the ball is coming down towards the bat, right? So I'm gonna steal this bat real fast. So we talk about being on plane, and this is a hard coaching point for a lot of people because being on plane actually has an upward trajectory to the swing. Because if the ball is coming in this way and we swing down, our contact point is really, really small, okay? I also understand that I've seen plenty of young players, while I've worked with my son and everybody else, that will have a very steep swing. That's not great either. So whatever that ideal trajectory, that plane that the ball is coming in, we want our bat to be right along that as long as it can so that you have a better chance of hitting it, right? So the term for that is like the hitting zone. So you have the strike zone, but the hitting zone is actually over the plate and extended out in front. So if I can get the bat to the hitting zone and stay long through it, I can now make contact from here all the way through to be able to move the ball. If that ball is coming in here and I come here, that's my hitting zone, real short, so less success. So I know it's kind of counterintuitive to what we've heard our entire life. Don't swing up, don't uppercut. No, we still don't do that. But we do have to have an upward trajectory through that ball because the pitcher's on the mound throwing it down. Okay, a little bit different from softball because it's coming from a different perspective if we have any softball folk out there. But it's the same idea. If it's coming from here, we've got to get to that plane and stay in there a little bit longer. So some mechanical things to think about. We try to ask our guys to be as quiet as possible. The more that we move, the more things can get out of whack. So the more simple we are, the better off we're gonna be. So we try to keep our hands high and quiet. High, get them right up here around their shoulder, and don't have too much wiggle. For some of you, like myself, who grew up watching guys like Julio Franco, right? Those guys are amazing and they're professionals for a reason. Okay, some fun things to do is look up film of former major leaguers like when they're in high school. You can find Jeter, Machado, Correa, a lot of those guys really easily. And Manny Machado's swing looked kind of just like this. Bam, and then go. That was it, nothing to it. Okay, he was a freak of nature, but that also tells you the progression from high school to college to professional. So that goes even simpler when they're younger. We talked load, stretch, the same thing that we however you want to term that one. Then when we talk about kind of the chain of command, we've got kind of 5 steps to this one. So we'll do dry swings with our guys a lot, and it just looks kind of like this. We'll ask them to do step 1 is just a load, right? That's get their weight back. Step 2 is a small toe tap. Then for at least the way I look at a lot of stuff, everything in baseball is ground up. So if you get your feet in the right position, it's easier to get everything else in the right position, right? So if I'm stepping over here, it's really hard to worry about my hands getting through, okay? So if we can get loaded and get the toe down, then it's just a chain reaction from the ground up. Then our shin and knee come in, so that's 3. 4 is our hips, and you can kind of see how almost like a spring, you're starting to build up that power. So if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, you keep the hands back, and then 5, you just release the hands through the swing. And that's where you get a lot of that bat speed and power because it's built up, much like you twist a spring and just let it go and it snaps back through. We do that to our body, both as pitchers and as hitters, okay? So some fun drills that we do. All right, one of you guys, come on out here, it doesn't matter here. Trev, come on out. You get to be on camera first. So some things that we do, go grab the parachute back. So we like to, here at Westerville North, make the most out of what we have. We don't always have all the bells and whistles, but I also know that neither do you, right? Having coached in WIBSL, having started with the Naturals this year, we don't always have access to Rapsodo and tons of cages and everything else. So how do we work on hitting when we maybe don't have a cage or we don't have access to stuff? So here's a drill that you can do those 5-step dry swings. So all I did is take an old camp t-shirt and tape it to a bat. We all got that, right? I'm sure you've got stuff that you donate and get rid of. But what we're working on here is not only swing mechanics, but also strength, core strength in the swing. So if Trevor goes through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swing, when he gets to the swing, he'll swing through, come back and get reset. So go ahead, and you can see this, the t-shirt on there is gonna create a lot of drag, right? So it's almost like having a weighted bat, but now you can work on mechanics, slow himself down, and then get that whip through at the very end. All right, go ahead.
You're saying the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, so just break it down. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let it go first, and then we'll do a full swing. Okay. Now go through and just do a full speed swing. So strength building, form, and you get, great job. You get guys doing these enough, they're gonna get exhausted very quickly. So you're going to want to tailor how many reps they do because we don't want to get tired and then start building up bad habits, okay? But again, that's really, really easy. Wall or a net, okay? If we'll use this fungo. I'll use this L screen behind me, but if you have a wall or a net, you can do the same thing and just get players here, walk up to it. There's your distance from your belly button. Now I can just go through dry swings, keep my hands inside so I don't hit it. This eliminates the kids that are gonna cast it real early, sweep it, which is gonna be real slow because they're gonna drill the fence. They're gonna hit the net, and it gives them instant feedback. Well, don't hit the net. Okay, so what do? They now have to pull these hands in close and let that barrel throw out front, which is what we want for their swing anyway. Okay, same thing, we can go this way. If you've got a kid, players that are gonna really lock out and sweep this way, get their foot up against here. So now they have to drive those hands forward first and finish their swing. Okay? It's usually not on an L screen, but it's the same idea. So we all have fences at the places we play. We can go to the park. If you have a local cage or something that you wanna go to, you don't need anything else, just dry swings. And these are the drills that will separate those kids because it's really building those core mechanics. I'll tell you what, they're not fancy. They're kind of boring and monotonous. So it's hard to get them to buy into it. So keep the reps low when you do it, but make it part of a routine so they're doing it consistently. Another thing that we use are PVC pipes. Lots of different things that you can do with PVC pipes, not very expensive. You can go to Home Depot right down here and get one for just a couple bucks. So if this goes on YouTube, Home Depot, you can donate to our program. I appreciate that for the plug. But easy way to do it is this is about a 6'1", you can put it right over their shoulders, okay, or right here across their shoulders, and just have them hit off a tee. Put a ball on a tee, raise the tee up so it's right above their belly button, and just have them hit it off the tee. So what we're training here is the shoulder tilt. So we don't want to keep our shoulders up because their hands have to come straight down like this. That's not the plane that we want. So we want to get to here so that we can now imagine a bat coming right back up through where that ball is. So you just hold it here, you can put a tennis ball, wiffle ball, whatever on a tee, do this. It's challenging for them at first, but after a while when they get it, they'll get it and you just can keep doing it. The fun thing about the challenge is if they can get past that initial like, oh, I can't do it, then it becomes fun, right? Then it becomes a challenge to see if you can knock it off, see if you can hit it far. You can do load drills, right? Where you put this in the center of their body, right? And let them feel the stretch, because this arm's literally gonna pull. All they're doing is loading and feeling that stretch. You can take the PVC pipe, have a longer end here, and you wanna knock the ball off there and then finish through. So if I'm up here and I have a tee in front of me, I'm gonna drive my hands, bump, knock that off, and finish through. Knock it off, finish through. Okay? So PVC, super cheap. It's there, readily available for you to be able to help out with whatever it is that you need. Some other stuff. So if we have tees, we want to think about setting up the tees on a plate. You'll set the outside one up further away, middle, inside. So it'll have an arc to it around there. So instead of always setting the tee like right on top of the plate, you want to have the players go to the same spot that they would be every time they hit, right? So I know I work with my young guys right now about, hey, make sure you're getting in the box at the same spot every single time. So they can tap their bat or whatever they have to do to know they're in the same spot. Then you can move the tee where we want them to make contact, right? So we don't want them to try to pull that outside pitch because they're gonna have to hit it back here and roll their hands over and it's just gonna be a weak ground ball, okay? We want them to get used to hitting that ball to each field where it's gonna be pitched. So if they can start to understand that at a really young age, or even just where to put the tee when they go to hit, to try to hit different ways, that's amazing. Because we teach that to 90% of our kids when they come in as 14-year-olds. So when we talk about wanting to give these guys opportunities to play beyond and become good and maximize their ability, if they can come to us and know some of these things, we can then help them continue to grow into the game. Because we don't want their careers to end at us. We want to be able to go follow them and watch them in college, and that's where it starts with you guys, which is why we want to invest so much time in doing this. Top hand, bottom hand stuff, you can always either use broomsticks, you can have them choke up on the bat, but when we think of top hand, and I'm going to do this from a right-hander's perspective, if we need a left-hander's perspective, I can have Coach Stacy come up here, but for me, that's my right hand. I want to try to keep my palm up through the hitting zone as long as I can, okay? So, for instance, if I hit, I want to come through this way because it allows me to extend further. If I have my palm down, I'm going to roll my hands over and that ball is going to go down. Or if it's even in the air, it's going to have a hump. I'm sure you've seen kids hit balls and they go whoop, straight down, because right when they're making contact, their hands are flipping over and you're putting that top spin on it. And we want back spin. So we want to come through with our palms up to extend. And then with our bottom hand, we're going to extend out. So you want to try to think of this elbow driving right to where your pitcher is and extending out. You can do this with any type of bat, but you can have players stop themselves right after contact. It'll never be right after contact, but it'll look like, and they'll stop here. And you can check their hands. Is their palm still up? Okay, and is the bat pointing somewhere in the direction of the pitcher? Okay, so you can do it off a tee, soft toss, front toss, doesn't matter. Bam. And then you stop them, and then you check where they're at. So when we do work on a tee, or when we do work in cages, we call it the lab, because nobody's hit home runs in a cage. You can say you have. Nobody hits a home run in the cage. So we don't worry about the end result. We're experimenting, we're tinkering, we're working on our skills so that they can translate out onto the field. Because if we're worried about how hard we hit it in the cage, we're going to go back to swinging too hard and making mistakes. We're going to drag our bat too long behind because we're swinging too hard. We're gonna fly open, we're gonna do all that stuff and build bad habits where we want them to be very controlled, building good habits so we get out into the game and it just becomes second nature. Then they just go compete and we don't think about any of it. Let's move on. So we do a lot of long tee work. Long tee is great if you do have a cage or if you're at home and you want to set up some targets. So you got a tee, a tennis ball, and like a wiffle ball bat or even their bat. Set up some targets straight out from them in the distance and see if they can hit it. Make it a game. So one of the most fun things that we try to do is make everything competitive. And you'll hear me talk about this again later, but competition breeds success, but competition also breeds failure and the opportunity to learn, right? We want them to fail, okay? We want them to fail. Sometimes you need to get beat, you need to get beat bad to realize that you need to make adjustments, you need to change. We don't always need to win. Sometimes you gotta lose to get better. If you always win, you're never gonna get challenged. And we need to change, we need to have adjustments. So we try to play and make competitions just everything we do. We have competitions starting from September on Saturdays. We compete inside of our position groups, hitters, we do hitting leagues. A lot of that stuff you'll see at the back of the packet, but we compete at everything, right? We have to learn how to win and we also have to learn how to lose. And then how do we learn, okay? Soft toss is basically the exact same thing as tee. Anything you can do on a tee, you can do soft tossing. What I love about soft tossing is you'll have a rhythm to it. We like to call it out to help them understand because we don't have a pitcher out there. So we soft toss 1, 2, 3, and then you release. So that they can visualize and think that there's a pitcher who's getting ready to throw it. 1, 2, and then go, okay? Instead, sometimes without that rhythmic movement, you're gonna get guys that'll throw it a little too fast, a little too slow, and guys are trying to play catch up and be a little bit too quick or too steep coming down because the ball was thrown before they were ready. So we try to keep a nice 1, 2, 3. So guys can go through their entire progression and be on time and be on plane. Plyo balls and TCBs are the heavier balls, the sand-based balls. Those are great because it allows you to hit in a really confined area without like breaking windows or like killing a neighbor kid. So that's always great. But also be aware that the young guys, it's not as fun because they can't hit it very far, right? So like if I had my little guys hit it, it's like boom, 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 and they finish their swing. So with the younger ones, take like a slightly deflated mini basketball. And then they can still hit it. It's still heavy. It's not gonna go as far. It's not gonna break a window, but it's the same result. As they get bigger and stronger, you get the TCBs and they can hit through them and really do some damage and get the feel for it. But you can change what you hit to get the same result. James, you wanna come up here? We'll do some front toss drills. So unlike side, if you have an L screen or if you have a space where you can do some of this work, you can even do it with wiffle balls, and then you may get a mark on your face or something like that, but your kid will think it's hilarious. It's okay. So James, if you want, you can kick that little, turn that into the plate, roll that out here. So you get behind the screen, you want to be behind the bigger side of the screen. Depending on your preference, you can like sit or take a knee on a bucket and throw, or underhand. But this allows us to get a lot of really good reps really fast, the front toss. Because I can be extremely accurate from 10 to 15 feet away, over and over and over again, as opposed to backing up to 45 or 60 feet and trying to throw BP, right? If you've ever done that and then you struggle to throw a strike and your kid's yelling at you, everybody's getting frustrated, and guys are standing out there in the field, like looking at the clouds, and right? Let's take our skill out of it and just go like this. So if we just have wiffle balls, and we can get a screen out here, but I don't want to have James hit me in the face on camera. So we'll just walk through. You can hit it or use a wiffle ball. Come on. It's a good take though. Good. And then you just walk through it. You can get a ton in really fast. Okay, James?
On top of the plate.
Hey, it's first home run of the season. James also did something really great that he didn't even mean to, is active takes. So every pitch is important. So he went through there and you saw him get the toe down, start to move the hips and get the hands. So every pitch for us is a yes, 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 no. So when we step in, every pitch is a yes, 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 nope, that's a ball, okay? Or yes, 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 and you finish your swing, right? If you're worried about getting hit or taking a pitch off and not concentrating on whether it's gonna be a strike or not, then you're going to get got by some pitches. You're going to be late. You're not going to have a successful at bat. Every time they get in there, yes, 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 no, or yes, 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 yes. So James didn't even know it, but he did a great job that I wasn't even going to mention. So you can adjust this too. We could move this, say if you're struggling and you're older and you're struggling to hit outside pitching, right? You move the plate over, and now you can throw at an angle, and the ball's now coming in from over here outside of the plate, forcing your players to hit it deep and go that way. Just move the L screen over, okay? And for a lefty, it would go the other way. So there's lots of variations you can do to that to meet the needs of what your team needs. And then the last thing we'll hit is live BP. If you have the opportunity to do it on a field with an L screen and everything else, just have a purpose to it and make sure everybody's involved. So we had our first live BP session the other day, and the players, you can kind of see some of the stuff that Coach Lee put on there, but the guys who have hitting have a purpose. We usually start with some bunts, some situational hitting, and we have base runners. We typically like to put the base runners at one place with one focus because it's easier. Because it goes too fast if you just have them try to work their way around and the situations get different, and then we kind of get into some bad habits and you have to stop and coach and it's tough. So we just had runners at second base, and their job was to read the ball in front, read the ball as a base hit, and you're either moving up, staying, or scoring. That was it. You're just at one place, you're in a scoring position. This is an important spot on the field to be. You need to be able to read the ball correctly. So they would get one rep, the next guy would step up, the guy would come back around, so they're always moving. And then we'd have a group, we were fortunate enough we had a group in the cages, but then we had another group fielding their positions. So unlike usual on-field batting practice that you'll see where you've got like 3 guys hitting and everybody else is shagging, that is boring. Kids don't have that kind of focus anymore, right? If they're standing out there for 30 minutes just picking up balls that are rolling to them, they're going to play lacrosse or run track or do video games, right? We need them to keep playing this game. Our numbers for tryouts has dwindled every single year I've been here. We're losing possible players. One of the reasons is because it's boring. So you still want to get those reps in. So if you've got your shortstop, you go to short, and I want you to field them live and throw them across to somebody, a coach or a first baseman. We can pause ourselves to allow them to finish the play. If you're a center fielder, go to center. I don't care if a ball is hit to left. We'll pick it up in a second. You get live reads at center, and you go get balls, right? So they're playing their actual position. And it's easier if you don't have cages, then you have more players being able to play defense and or run. So now everybody's doing something. You're working on multiple skills at one time. Okay, so that's kind of how we do batting practice. And if you ever have any questions about it, you're like, hey, this is what I have. These are my resources. I'm here by myself. Just reach out to me, and I will gladly help you put something together that can get every kid involved, moving, being productive, learning a good skill, and just make your life way, way easier. Absolutely no problem. All right, I believe we are going to catchers. So Coach Kovacs, you are up. All right, and this was something everybody was asking about, right? Catching was a hot topic, so don't mess this up.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't even know how to use this clicker.
To the right, that's all.
Actually, that's all pretty simple.
Slide.
Yeah, even better. Hey guys, I'm Coach Kovacs. I've been our catcher's coach for about 9 years now. I also went to school here. I graduated from here in 2008, so I bleed a Warrior. I bleed Westerville itself. What I was going to basically talk to you guys today about is pretty much our pregame stuff, our pregame mobility, our partner drills that we do with our catchers on a daily basis, practice games, doesn't matter. Basically our framing drills that we have, and then also receiving. So Donovan, I'm gonna have you come up with me. You'll be with me pretty much the entire time. So this is Donovan Barney. He is our starting, there we go. Varsity catcher. He's been what, 3 years now? It's your 3rd year, right?
Yeah, coming.
So I rely on him heavily because I try to, what I'll do is I'll teach him, and then I want them to be able to teach our younger guys as well. So I don't want it all to be me having to teach our guys. I want our older guys to mentor a lot of our younger guys. So first thing we'll do is we'll start with our mobility stretches, which for him, we go about 20 feet. We start with our duck walks. So really just down, he's literally just duck walking for about 10 to 20 feet, down and back. Tedious, but what it does is it starts to open up our legs, because that's the big thing with catchers. It's hips. It's hips, it's core. We want to make sure those are good and loose to be able to go side to side to catch a ball, block a ball. Our next one that we do is our, it's basically like a extended lunge. So we're here, we're extending, and all we're doing is stretching. So the idea there is, set those down, we're stretching right here. We're stretching right over our hip flexor down through our thigh. And then we do it with the other leg. It's about, say about 10, 15 seconds on each, really getting a good stretch in there. And then from there we go to our step throughs. So go ahead and show them what that is. So it's the same thing, it's a lunge, and then we're sliding our leg through into a lunge, sliding into our lunge. So we do those, same thing, about 10, 15 feet, 20, and then back, okay? Next one we do is side to side. So this one's just, we're side, and we're basically squatting down. Side, squatting down, and then you're coming back the same way, but this side now. Okay, so we're opening up our legs, we're opening up our hips. From there, we then go to our partner drills, which is why I have these 4 balls here. So we have a mini ball, just a regular baseball, a weighted ball, and a tennis ball. What we do with these is just kind of the different size, weight. It'll work towards like how we catch it, how we're grabbing it. And so how we want to do that is essentially with these two, our thumb and our, I don't know, I'm blanking on what that finger is, but index. Yeah. So those 2 fingers, we want to come up, keep that thumb under and catch it. We're fine with using the middle finger as well on there, but our idea is the thumb and the index finger, okay? So we'll start those. Okay, we'll come back here so we'll make sure we're in line with this camera, because I don't know if it shows down there. That's fine. So we'll start pretty much in this primary. We'll start by rolling the baseball. He's basically getting his thumb under and bringing it up. Because what that's doing is it's basically going through how we want our glove to be. In our glove, we want to start it down and work it up into the zone. So we go through and we'll roll about 6 to 8 of these. Boom, come up. Okay, and then we'll go to just our regular partner drill. So we're still in our primary stance. It started to be a little bit new school where it's a knee on the ground. I was very old school where it was always both knees up, 2 feet just like this, boom, all the time. And that's how I was always taught. But this new school, it's getting to that low pitch. It's showing that low pitch can consistently be a strike. So there we'll have him start down with 1 knee, start low, then we'll just kind of toss. And that's all he's doing. He's just working on getting his thumb under it, kind of holding the frame in it. Boom. Pretty simple. Don't need a glove for this. This is all bare hand, about 6 to 8. You want to make them work too. We don't want to just throw it down the middle, so we'll throw in, we'll throw out. We'll make him work. Throw a little up, throw some down, then he's got to go under and grab. Then we'll switch to a tennis ball. Same thing, about 6 to 8. Boom. Boom. Making him really work. Sometimes we'll drop it. And we'll go to the weighted ball. Really get under and get that thumb under. Boom. Making him work. Then we'll switch. What we do is the mini ball. So a lot of times we'll have, obviously, it'll depend on how old the kids are. Honestly, how big their hands are too. A lot of times what we have our guys do is palm a baseball right here. And then we'll throw the mini ball and we'll purposely do it just so that they're catching with these 3 or 2 fingers. Okay, so go ahead, Don. Off and right through. Those are essentially our partner drills, so we'll do that primary stance and secondary stance. And we'll go through about 6 to 8 of each of them. Then the next thing we have them do is kind of we go to framing. So same thing as like partner drills that we just did, but all it'll be is same thing. We'll start barehanded. We'll start work on him going in, out, down, up. Same thing with just the 3 fingers. And then from there we go to our blocking series, which a lot of times is pretty basic. We'll set a ball here, and we'll just have them kind of go through the motions of it. So they'll boom, see it, drop. I'm not gonna drop super hard or anything right now. What's up?
On that single leg stance that you were doing, is that something that you were just doing for that drill, or is that something that the catchers are doing now?
Yeah.
Like you understand, I'm more.
Yeah, so it's something new that they actually do during a game as well. A lot of times the purpose for it is to try to manipulate the glove to stay low instead of getting eaten down and dropping. So what I mean by that is if a ball's like low, that we're not here and it's dropping and getting us to where he's down a little bit low for stance, so that low pitch we can be here and holding, keeping it at the bottom of the strike zone. So that's.
Is there a certain age that you recommend starting with that?
I would say probably 11 or 12. I wouldn't probably go super. I mean, from if you have kids that are younger than that are starting to get into catching, we're still trying to work on like just basics of it, which is our basic stance, kind of catching the ball itself, working on how to work their glove. So I would say probably 11 or 12. That's when we can start to really begin to develop the details where it comes into catching. So yeah, one knee, it's very new. It's something I'm still learning about. I follow a guy, his name's Todd Coburn. It's called the Catching Guy. I try to manipulate a lot of the drills that he does. He's been doing it since about 2000, so that's who I follow a lot of times. So he's a big one. His name's Todd Coburn, and he's a guy that I subscribe to his website and everything, and I watch a ton of his videos, and that's where I'm still learning a lot of it because, like I said, I didn't do it in high school, I didn't do it in college, so it's a whole new realm to me too for the most part. But over the last couple of years, we've started to integrate it into our catchers as well. And then as far as like blocking, this is all pre-game stuff where I'll set a ball down and he'll just kind of work on going straight down to block. He'll work on his side-to-side technique. And then from there, we then go live with it, basically like a coach or a player throwing to that person, where we'll work also framing with a glove and then also blocking with their full gear on and everything. You guys have any questions, anything else for me? We can also talk about it at the end too. And I mean, honestly, I would love for any single one of you to come out to a practice. I have no problems with that. I would enjoy it in that way. Like, if there's more stuff entail that we're doing that you're like, hey, why do you do this or why do you do that? I'd love to pick all your guys' brains. I'd love for you to pick my brain. So my request is that try to come out to a practice if you can. Because there's a lot of times where they'll be catching bullpens for catchers, and then I'll work with our other catchers on the side with a lot of different drills that we do that actually is more detailed than what I'm kind of offering and showing right now. Okay, so that would be my ask: is get a hold of me. We can talk about it after the clinic, and I'd love to see you guys out and have a practice.
What should they be in secondary?
Runners on base. Just runners on base. Primary stances for really if no one's on, that we're more relaxed. We're not ready to kind of go to throw somebody out or maybe pick behind. It's more when someone's on base, when someone's on first, that we're expecting maybe he's gonna go, or
What about nobody on base, 2 strikes?
I mean, you can be. I mean, you don't want the ball past you. So yeah, I mean, you can be. It's not a bad option as well. So yeah, nobody on base, 2 strikes. It's a great idea to go to a secondary stance with the runner on, or if people are on base, that's where we want you in your secondary stance. And by secondary stance, you're going to widen out a little bit. Obviously, you won't have a knee on the ground. You'll get a little bit wider, a little bit more athletic stance to where you're here, kind of more on the balls of your feet, sitting, so you're ready to kind of get up and go if he's going to steal, or be able to side to side and block that ball in case he does swing it like a drop third strike. All right, who we got next? Is it Nick? Yeah, we got infield drills, Coach Nick. Thanks, Tom.
How you guys doing? I'm Coach Stacy, infield guy. Basically what I want to talk about is kind of what we do and what we put emphasis on before we really even get into hitting ground balls. You know, before we go to positions and just start hitting ground balls at kids. Kind of what we want to really put an emphasis on. The first thing is just throwing progression. We want to make sure we're not just going out there and just tossing the ball. We want to be doing everything with a purpose. So whether that's, you know, faking tags, we have a whole deal. I won't kind of go through the whole thing, but as long as they're doing something, you know, catching, acting like they're tagging, catching cutoffs, whatever that may be, and then really getting your butt underneath you when you're throwing. So we're really driving and using our core and following that throw. I talk about following our throws all the time. We want to throw and then follow where we're going. The second thing here is the partner drills. We want to do our hands routine is what I call it. Partner drills, I'll have these guys come out and we'll just kind of run through a quick version of what we do before we do anything. So just a couple balls right there. What's that? Just use your bare hand. Just do a couple. We do 15 or 20 of each one of these reps, but so they're really using their hands here. Here, stop real quick. One thing we talk about a lot before we even do this is our hands. We don't want our hands. You see this? We don't want our hands to be straight. We don't want to see that palm, right? Because if we're here now, our elbow's going to hit the chest, and we want the ball to get to the break point, is what I call it, right in the middle of our chest as fast as we can. So we're going to take our hands and we're going to slightly turn them that way, so now I can get here. So they're working on that with their bare hand, where they're going to turn a little bit, and they're going to feed, and they're going to be right here, because we want to get to this point, because we can get here, we can get here. Good. So they're going to work on that with just their bare hand, and they're going to do that for usually 15 or 20 reps. You guys can just go through, do two or three of each one. Then you're going to move to the side and work on the glove side there. The same thing on everything. We want everything right to the center of our chest. Backhands are a little different. We're gonna either pinch the backhand or let it come up. I kind of let them make that call on the backhand. There's a couple different ways to do it, but it's a tough play. So you can either kind of on an actual play, some guys will go here, come up. Some guys will cross over and pinch. It's just on a backhand. We just want to make the play. Short hops, and we'll move on to short hops. And on a short hop, we want to pinch that. We want to pinch that short hop and kind of go get it. Same thing with your short hops on the glove side. And then we'll move on to.
When you're priced out in the field, are they actually this close?
Yeah.
They're this close.
Yep, we're this close. Yep. This is all about just getting our hands ready to then when we can get out on the field and we're seeing live ground balls, we can kind of do the same thing, just working those hands. And then we move on to gloves. We do the same exact thing with gloves. Kind of run through that real quick. Just do 2 or 3 each one. So we're really working on getting those hands here and then really just getting right to the center of that chest there. Short hops. And with the glove, you can really see how they're pinching and kind of going after that short hop there. So now we're gonna stand up and we're gonna kind of go through the same thing. You don't have to go, it's the same thing. We're not gonna go through the same thing, but they stand up and then they do the same thing, and then after that we can move on to the flamingo, right? So then the one that we've really kind of tried to bring in is I call it a flamingo drill. And it's kind of like a version of like the online, offline deal. So what we want to do to field a ground ball is to come through it. We want to attack from the right side. And every time we field a ball, we want to come here with our right left. And then we want to field the ball on the left side of our body on our left index finger. So the ball should be hitting our glove when our left foot hits the ground. And then we should replace our feet and come through here. So on this flamingo drill, we're going to hold up our foot like this, and he's going to roll the ball, and then we're going to try to catch that just like that and field and replace. So we're going to hold that foot up right there. That's what we want every time, and then we'll keep going a little bit. Yep. So we want that, like I said, we want that ball to make the catch when his left foot hits the ground. If we can do that at the same time, and then we just replace our feet, and then we can get here and ready to throw. And then from there, then we just really work on the setup. We talk about setup and attacking the ground ball. Aiden, come over here real quick. So when we set up to the ball, we want to kind of back off a little bit, and then we're going to creep forward, and then we want to get low and athletic and get a nice little hop on the balls of our feet when we're fielding a ground ball. And we don't want when we're fielding the ground ball. A lot of times we'll say you'll hear like get your butt down. We don't necessarily want our butt down, because if our butt goes down, our chest comes up, our hands come up. So we kind of want our chest over our body and then our knees bent athletic so we can be here and get here. If we sink our butt, everything comes up. So kind of go through your pre-pitch if a ball's coming to you, okay, and then you're ready. Okay, so we want to make sure we're ready, and then we want to back off of that and then come back through every time. Oh, you good? You want to? Okay. All right. He's going to be the pitcher here, and then Aiden's going to come through. Okay. So now he's ready, and then once the ball's hit to us, okay, we want to attack with our hands. We want our hands out here. We don't want to flip the glove or run to the ball like this. We want to attack with our hands. So wherever the ball is, our hands want to go with it, and then we want to run towards the ball. We're just talking about a routine ground ball right now. So on a routine ground ball, if it's hit right at us, this is a good line right here. I don't know if you can see it. But if the ball's hit right here at me, I don't want to run to it because I got to throw it this way. And then once I feel it, my angle is going to be off. So we want to attack everything to the right. And we do a drill where we put cones out. We'll put a cone out right in front of him, and then one about right here, and then one right here. So we don't want a big banana peel, but we want to attack to the right, okay? And then we can get that right here, and then we're here. So we want to get that nice little angle on a routine ball hit right at us, so we're not going straight. Now, obviously on slow rollers, sometimes we got to go get it and we just got to go make a play. But on those routine balls, we want to attack to the right and work to the left. What else I got here? So after that routine there, then we just kind of go into a little, basically the same thing. We go bare hand, and then we just roll them balls from their position, and then they just go bare hand, and they work on that we're getting around with the cones, attacking from the right to the left, and then we back off that and we go short fungos. So we'll hit fungos from the pitcher's mound, and they'll have the gloves. They kind of just run through the same thing, and then after that, then we can kind of get through, and then we go into whatever we're doing on that particular day as far as infield. One other thing we talk about a ton is counting hops, getting in tune with your hops. So one thing that we talk about a lot is not just standing here and taking balls off our chest. So that's good. Sometimes we want to stay in front of the ball. Sometimes you got to make a play like that. But we want to get in tune with those hops. If we can know what's coming and we can count the hops, we try to count everything. So if we count them, now we can eliminate that in-between hop. That's what we work to do. We want to get a short hop that we can pinch, or create a long hop that we can give depth. So if we think we're going to get a short one, we can come up here. But if you think you're going to get it in between, we want our guys to take that step back. Okay, now we just created a long hop and an easy play, and then you can go. So we talk about counting hops. We do a drill where we send the guys to their position and then we hit fungos. As soon as the ball hits the bat, I'll yell a number, okay? It's kind of manipulating a fielding a ground ball, but we'll say 4, and then they have to field the ball in the 4th hop, or 2. So it gets them really in tune with what they're doing, and kind of just really creating that depth and closing down that depth. So that will make fielding the ground ball a lot easier, and not just standing there and taking stuff off your body. Sometimes you have to, but we'd like not to.
You have them do their throwing routine like real fast and short.
Yeah, let's do like your throwing progression. Like before we do anything, you do your super teams and all that good stuff.
Yeah, don't get far.
Just
really work your feet.
Alright, so we'll start with like flips. We just want to work our hands. We always catch with 2 hands. And then like we'll back up a little bit. And we'll come like right to here. And then we'll go through just stand still. Even when we're doing that, we still want to move our feet, use 2 hands. In flips you don't necessarily have to, but when we're here. And then after that, still sit up. We'll just go into like kind of a short throw the whole time. We're just working the ball. And even like sometimes, like if I'm right here, I'll do it fast, so favors like this. We'll just go through it quick, and we'll keep throwing it back and forth. And then after you throw it back and forth a few times, then you can start moving back more and more. Yeah, and then we'll start sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, we'll open our head, especially when we're like more long tossing than when we're short throwing. We'll practice on taking like a cut from the outfield. That's more so like when we're from like sideline to sideline on the football field.
Yeah. But then when you start to close it in.
And then we start closing in, we do quick hands quick.
Yeah, quick
So
hands.
we'll throw it, and then we'll just keep working it. And we'll just keep going through, and then you get right back to each other. I would say, well, how far do we usually throw?
That just depends on how your arm's feeling that day. But we want to try to extend that as far as we can. Long toss is a great way to just build arm strength, just naturally. Just throw as far as you can. We want to really if you get your body with you and get your arm going, get your trunk with you and your core, you can really throw the ball a long way, a lot farther than a lot of kids think they can throw the ball. So if we can get out and just throwing is the best way to do that. So that's all I got, really. That's just kind of what we do before we get into everything else. So, questions? Good? Cool.
Yeah, so what they just finished with and what Coach Stacy was alluding to is we call it high quality catch. And it's the number one biggest pet peeve and I think most important drill that you can do is when they throw to warm up, next time watch your guys throw. See how that goes. See what type of body movements and habits they have just warming up. And I guarantee you they are not good. But we ran through it. They throw the ball probably about 35 to 50 times before every practice and every single game. Multiply that by about 55 days together in the spring. We're talking about thousands of reps where you're either going one way or the other. You're either doing it right and getting better and building habits, or you're doing it wrong and creating bad habits. So that is the one thing that we harp on them over and over and over again to be able to do it right, as well as it just brings energy and it brings focus and it brings preparedness to get ready for whatever practice or game you're going to have. So high quality catch is, they'll tell you, it's my number one pet peeve. Okay, it's the thing that we go on. So we're going to talk pitching a little bit. I brought a couple of my most handsome and shortest demonstrators out here because it's all fun and games, right? To have these high schoolers who are juniors and seniors who play a high level of baseball all the time and know what they're doing, come out here and do stuff. Well, a lot of you are just getting into pitching right now, right? We've got 8, 9, 10-year-olds who, how do we do this? So the first thing that I want to go over with pitchers, and this is a huge fallacy, is pitchers are athletes. Don't disrespect the pitchers. Usually, until you get to the major leagues, your pitcher is also your shortstop and batting third or fourth. So pitchers are your dudes right now. So don't underestimate playing basketball, playing football. We talked about it before, but get those kids playing it because the more athletic they are, the better pitchers you'll have, right? right? Because they'll be able to transfer all these movements. So we have 5-step mechanics that we go through with both the wind and the stretch. So we'll start with the stretch, because I think it's the basic, most basic part of pitching. You're gonna have guys on base, and you can do it whether guys are on base or not. So what I ask our players to do is find a line, right? If you're in a gym, that's great. There's lines everywhere. If you're not, bring some painter's tape. Put some tape down, okay? So right now I'm gonna have Carter go right to this tee, okay? Face that way. Henry, you in? Okay, you stand over here right next to him. So we're gonna go out of the stretch, and they're gonna do it with me. So we're gonna start with this black line would be the rubber. So it's gonna be between our legs, kind of closer to our right foot. All my little guys here are righties. Lefties, you just turn it around. So our step one is we just step and we put our foot right in front of this line. Okay, step one, we stepped on the rubber. Step two, we're gonna come set. Okay, so we've gotta have our hands apart at this point, bring them together here, and we're gonna pause right at our belly button. So step two. Step three, this is for me the most important part, because this is the balance. This gets the rest of your pitching mechanics in line. So they're gonna bring their leg up, we call it the balance point. Okay, so they should be able to hold this as long as you want them to hold it. Challenge them, okay? Get up here, hands are still here. You want the glove, the fingers facing back, so the pitcher can take the ball out easily. If you have the fingers facing in, now we've got to do a little bit of a weird wrist and scap load to be able to get that ball out. So coming straight back. So this is our balance position. From here, as they start to master these, we want them leading with their hip. The first thing that moves towards the plate from here is their hip. You're gonna go here. Because then now I can push as if I'm jumping down. And it starts that chain reaction just like we saw when we were hitting from the ground up. Remember we go here, here, and it comes all the way up? Same thing. Oh, thanks. Same thing pitching. So if we're here and I go here, if you wash my knee and my shin, it's the exact same thing. I can drive down, stay close, and I'll go. So after we go to 3, go ahead, get up here. We're gonna go to 4, which is toe down, hands opposite. We want the ball pointed away. Ball pointed away, and we want 3 L's. Right here the wrist, nice and loose. Right here the elbow, nice and loose. And right here the shoulder, nice and loose. Because I'm sure you've all done this. Taken a towel, got it wet, wrapped it up, snap, right? And it hurts like crazy. You see guys in major leagues and so on, these tall, skinny dudes who throw 100 miles an hour. You're like, how? That guy's that big. This is how. It's long whip, right? So we want our glove pointed right to where we want the ball to go. A little baby bend in here, right? So we're gonna replace that glove with the ball after that. So 5 is gonna look like you're throwing it, so you replace it, and you're gonna tuck that glove kind of like you're running with a football. So go ahead and do 5. Okay, so that's it. So pretty easy. So these guys have been doing it for a little while, but it's very simple stuff to start with your players, and we've done it with Carter's team. Set up a sock net, or you can put some tape on there as like a strike zone. Have a little competition with them. Have them go through all their mechanics correctly, and then throw into the strikes and see how they do, and have winners and losers and all that kind of stuff, and then you work on it and you keep building it. So if we're gonna go the wind up, if we get a little bit older, we're gonna start here. You ready? Okay, we're gonna start here, hands together. And what we want to do, the only 2 that are different is step 1 and step 2. So step 1 is gonna be a really small stride, right? I say either off to the side or back. It doesn't matter if it's somewhere close. And I don't like our guys taking big strides, because see what it does to my nose and my eyes. If I'm locked in on that computer screen as my catcher, and I go here, my target just shifted 2 feet. And when I come back, it comes back 2 feet, right? So this is my camera that's telling me where I need to go, where my body's pointed. So if I'm off, now I'm off. So I try to keep my nose as still as possible. I just go here, here, okay? So it's 1, 2. 2 is just turning my foot on the side of the rubber, not up on it. And I tell our guys I prefer not be on it, because sometimes guys will be taught to put their spikes or half their foot on top of the rubber. So to me, when you get to 3, you already start to fall. So you have a really hard time of consistently repeating your mechanics, because you can't get to the same balance point every single time. And that's what kicks off your ability to repeat your mechanics. So are you ready? Okay, so we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, right? So a simple thing to do if you're just learning to teach your guys how to pitch, incorporate that in your high quality catch. Do 15 of them every single day, throwing to each other over and over again. Because up until they're about their age, everybody's a pitcher. Everybody's a pitcher. Because I don't know if little Billy, who's yay big and 85 pounds, is going to grow to be 6'5" and be able to throw absolute gas when he's 18 years old, right? So just because when he's 10, he didn't develop as fast as the other guys and throw as hard, doesn't mean he's not going to get there. So what I like to tell the young coaches is it's not where you start, it's where you finish. You can win all the championships you want when you're 9U, right? But let's see where we can get them developmentally when they're 18-year-old young men, right? Because when they're kids, they're going to grow up at different times. So everybody gets to be a pitcher when they're young. That's a skill that will help your team out because you could be running low on pitching in a tournament, but it's a skill that's going to help those kids out. Because we get a lot of players that come here that are maybe pretty decent athletes, or we look at mom and dad and go, that kid's going to be gigantic. Hey, have you ever pitched before? No. Why not? We have one, the kid who's probably our number one pitcher right now. When he got to high school, Trevor, how much did you pitch?
Oh, before high school?
Do you remember what you told me when I asked you when you were a freshman whether you pitch or not?
I think I said no.
You said no. Everybody else is a better pitcher than me. And he's going to be leaving here as our number one, right? So he didn't get the opportunity to throw before because coaches said, well, he's not as good as these other guys, so we're not going to let him pitch. And he's going to leave as a 1 out of his senior year for 4 years of high school, right? So you never know where people are going to end up. So don't stop guys from learning how to pitch. The other stuff about pitching that we need to think about is making sure we're throwing the right pitches at the right time. So if we're looking at age groups, fastball changeup from about 8 to 10, right? I get some of those kids at 9 year and go out and try to throw some just hardcore, 12 to 6 curveballs and everything else. Unless you are highly skilled at being able to treat that or teach that, pump the brakes. Either get it to somebody who is, or just teach a fastball and a changeup. And when we look at fastballs, there's lots of different variations to it, right? What I try to teach our guys, and it's tougher the younger they are, is the closer you can get your fingers together, the better off you are. The ball will go faster and it'll move more, okay? So my son, who's 7, got tiny little hands, right? It's really hard to do that. He's got to spread his fingers out a little bit more to get control of that baseball. Excuse me. But as they get older, you want the ball off the palm and fingers close together, okay? Here's a 4-seam grip. You're going to get rotation like that. It's going to go straight, but it's going to go faster if you hold it like this than if you hold it like this or if you hold it like this, okay? More surface area touching the ball, more pressure as you pull on it. It's going to go slower and it's going to go straighter. Okay, so if you have kids who are growing up, but they got big enough hands, start to push that ball out on the tips of their fingers a little bit. Your 4-seam grip, you're going to be up here, and tell them to play with the ball. This is also part of your high-quality throwing. What I ask our pitchers to do is take about 5 or 10 throws where you catch a seam with your index finger, you catch a seam with your middle finger, you go no seams, you go no seam on the thumb, and just throw it. You might throw one and go, whoa, that thing moved a ton. Throw it again. Did it do it again? It did. Throw it again. Did it do it again? All right, we got another pitch, right? That's how Mariano Rivera found his cutter. They were just playing with the ball in the outfield in between starts. He threw one and went whoop, and they're like, wow, do that again. Huh, do that again. Huh, let's try that in a game. And next thing you know, he's a Hall of Famer, right? Same thing with a changeup. We ask them to throw about 10 changeups every single day when they play catch, okay? A lot of guys will teach the OK changeup, where you make a little OK sign, wrap the ball around. If young players' hands aren't big enough, go with a pitchfork. 3 fingers over the top, much like a softball, 2 fingers underneath, and go with it. Same thing. If you have more surface area, it's going to slow the ball down. All we're really trying to do is miss the barrel of the bat, change up timing. We talked about hitters, right? We wanted to be on time, we wanted to be loaded, and we wanted to be on plane. Guess what the pitcher's job is? Disrupt timing and change planes. It's the exact opposite. Okay? So if we can slow that ball down by 4 miles an hour, instead of hitting the sweet spot, it hits it off the end, we catch it, inning's over. I tell our pitchers, I don't want a huge amount of strikeouts unless you can do it efficiently, because that's going to rack up their pitch counts, that's going to slow the game down. Our defense is going to probably make more errors because they're out there longer. Pitch to soft contact, move the ball around, change speeds, change planes. Okay? Then when they start to get to about 11 and up, or if they're a really early developer, start to teach that curveball. When we think about the curveball, what we really want to worry about is don't torque it. We don't want to twist it. right? Because that's the first thing a kid's going to go to when you ask them to spin the ball is they're going to spin the ball. What we want to do is we want to tell them to show the back of their hand to the catcher or the batter. We want to be able to come around and get on top of the ball and then tug on that seam as you finish. You really throw the curveball with your chest out front. So you get high on top of it and then bury it over the top as this ball rolls off their fingers. Okay, if you have a player that's really struggling to be able to get on top and keeps torquing it, then we can teach a slider a little bit, and that's where you're gonna kind of take a very similar grip. You're gonna throw a fastball, and then just tug on that seam with the middle finger at the end. So then every single one of their releases is the exact same fastball, changeup, slider, but they don't have to worry about trying to force the ball to move. Because again, they watch the highlights, they watch these major league pitchers who are throwing 100 with a two-seamer that's moving 2 feet, a changeup that's dying, and a 12-6er that's breaking 5 feet, and some people are looking at data and saying what their spin rate is, and Alex Rodriguez is telling you what the exit velocity is. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That doesn't help us in the least. It doesn't. They're great metrics to help us make decisions from time to time, and they're cool things to learn from and help these guys develop. But we have great conversations with them. I've had a lot of guys talk about launch angle and exit velo and stuff like that. You know, I've had conversations with freshmen and sophomores. This is back to hitting stuff, but hey, you know, I had this hitting coach. We were talking exit velocity. We were talking launch angle. You know, I think I should hit more fly balls. I'm like, son, you're 145 pounds. What's it going to do you to hit more fly balls? Those are outs. Like that fence out there is 330 feet. Like you hit more fly balls, they're going to catch it. There's no bad hops in the air. Like you're really fast, or if you want to have a higher batting average, which gets you more accolades, gives us more runners, gives us more runs, hit line drives. Right? Line drive rate, even in Major League Baseball, is the highest on-base percentage of any type of ball hit. Right? The difference is you see Major League Baseball and even college baseball now really using that analytics to hit the ball in the air, because they say, well, if I hit 2 or 3 home runs a game, happen to have a guy or 2 on base, I'm going to score more runs because those guys are really good at playing defense, that my odds of scoring runs go down. But that changes for us when we're young. Right? So the younger we are, we want to really focus on hitting line drives and getting on top of it. So the last part about pitches, and we can go over this as much as you want at the end of grips and everything else, but no split fingers, no fork balls, no screw balls. Right? It's not necessary. I've unfortunately seen a lot of really talented young pitchers come through Central Ohio that had great splitties and were really successful, but unfortunately their careers get cut really short because they get to go see a surgeon and get their arm fixed, right? Until they're old enough, which is probably about 20 plus years old, physically strong enough, their body can't handle it. And what Major League Baseball will tell you right now, even the grown men, as hard as they throw, can't handle it, right? Tommy John surgeries are at an all-time high in the last about 8 years. Okay, and then the last thing about pitching is it's really up here and it's right here, right? The crux of it is a guy on a hill with a ball versus a guy in the dirt with a bat. Who's going to win? Who wants it more? Okay, and you can't be afraid to throw it over the plate, because in this game you've got to give the guy with a bat a shot to hit it, because if you don't, you're just going to keep walking guys and you're going to get yourself in a really tough situation. So are our pitchers mentally prepared and tough enough in terms of the game to consistently be willing to throw the ball over that plate and let that guy hit the ball? Right? You have to. Sometimes they're going to win, sometimes they're going to lose, but they've got to be able to do it. So one of the things that we've seen at the high school level is sometimes we're really afraid to let them hit the ball. They're expecting to get a lot of strikeouts, and they're expecting bad things to happen when it gets hit. When in reality, that's how the game works. You've got to let them hit the ball. So start to help that mentality with our young pitchers of you've got to let them hit the ball. Throw it over the plate. We're not going to strike everybody out. You're not going to get a swing and miss. We can't win if we walk guys. We had a team meeting the other day and talked about walk percentages, first strike pitch percentages, all that fun stuff. And the crux of the story, the takeaway was you got to throw strikes. You got to put it over the plate. You got to let them hit it. Because if they hit it, we're going to field it and we have a chance to win. If we don't, then we're really not going to have a chance to win. So the biggest thing that we can do is get our young pitchers to believe in themselves that I can throw the ball over the plate and everything's going to be okay. Everybody's not going to take me yard. It's going to be okay. And then any way that you can kind of simulate that, simulate pressure, game speed is great because it builds that confidence for our young pitchers. right? First and third plays, bunt defenses, all that kind of stuff. And the last thing I want to hit is talking about running a practice. So the biggest thing that you can do is kind of plan ahead. And I know that's hard, trust me. Right now I'm planning like 3 different practices at a time. So I get how sometimes it's done in the last second, and that's okay. If you need help with it, just let me know. I've got lots of stuff. And it's stuff you don't have to think about. I've already made it and go, here, do these, right? And we can ask questions about it. I would love to share stuff with you. But other than that, just try to plan it out ahead of time. Get your bucket ready with the materials that you want. Have a time schedule that you want. You can see on the back, you can see my overly detailed type A practice plan that we have to the every 5 minutes and guys moving all over the place. I don't expect anything like that. You shouldn't try to do something like that. I've got a staff of 10 terrific coaches and have a bunch of guys who've played a lot of baseball before. I know you don't, right? So keep it simple. It doesn't have to be amazing, but the more you can prep out, the smoother it goes. If you've got a time frame, and even if something doesn't go the way you want, say you timed out, we're gonna do BP for 30 minutes, and it's a hot mess. Guys aren't hitting at all. Don't just keep beating that horse. Turn the page. Be like, guys, wasn't a great day today. We're gonna move on, we're gonna do something else. Keep that engagement flowing. Keep it moving. Stay on script, stay on page, get done what it was that you're trying to get done. Sometimes it's not gonna be good, and that's okay. We do the same thing with these guys. Some days practice just isn't great, but that's all right. We're gonna keep working at it, and we're gonna learn from those struggles. We're gonna learn from those failures and why it went that way. For me, it's 2 hours max. We've got the same problem you guys have, but just a little bit better, is attention span. Attention span and time, right? We've got young guys who have parents that need to pick them up. We have players who are currently on their cell phones right now, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your kids have got devices, they're young, all those things. The attention span is not there. Make it short. For you guys, I'd say from about 8 to 10, make it an hour and a half, right? Shrink it down and just be really focused on what it is you want to do. Maybe that day, all you really do is really get after ground balls. Cool. Do it short, do it focused, and get it done, right? It does us no good to string it out and have everybody get bored and tired and everything else. Avoid standing at all costs. We talked about that earlier. Get guys moving. We talked about the BP stuff, but the way that you can do that is with what Coach Stacy just provided you, grouping your players. Put them in groups. All you have to do is teach them 1 or 2 times how to do those partner drills, and then they can kind of do it on their own. Even if they're not great, that's okay, right? Even if they're young and they're not great and they're a little goofy, it's okay. They're still rolling the ball, they're still catching it. As long as they're not hurting each other and whipping at each other from 10 feet away, we're in good shape. It's okay. Give them the autonomy to be able to work and practice and learn how to do it on their own. Because something we see again a lot is our guys, a lot of them don't know how to work without a coach standing there telling them what to do, right? Many of us, and I know myself, we've had this conversation with my staff a bunch, we grew up outside playing, throwing a ball off the wall, making up games. This is a totally different generation. This is a generation that has needed an I-9 or a hitting coach to play a game. They haven't gone out and just played. They don't know the pickup style of game. Let them learn. Let them learn during our time. Create games, create partners, create groups, and let them work together and play and compete. And this is also great if you don't have a large coaching staff, right? I know there's gonna be times where you're by yourself and just have 2 guys. Well, if you can get a group to do 15 minutes of work on your own and then you can give that attention to somebody else, man, you're getting something productive, very productive, and then you flip it and you can go from there. Creativity, ingenuity. We showed you. You don't have to have amazing stuff, right? You don't have to have big hitting facilities and Rapsodos and everything else. You can adapt things however you want, okay? So I'm gonna have, Carter has been dying to do this, but we're gonna show you a couple games. So play games as much as you can, because that's what this is. It's a game. We wanna get better at it. So these are things that we do with his team and have been doing in the winter. So the first one he's gonna do, I'm gonna have you start back there and come towards the camera, is all he's gonna do is he's gonna skip and toss the ball in the air, right? 2 dynamic movements, asking him to focus here. We'll do it together, we'll go over here. Take this one. So just use a tennis ball, whip a ball if you need to, but all we're gonna do is we're gonna skip forward, we're gonna toss in the air, you ready? So you just toss in the air, skip, you just catch it, right? So we're working on a lot of skills. So think if you're T-ball, 6, 7, 8, 9, they need to learn how to do this, right? It's no different than tracking a ball in the air in the outfield, of getting your hips open and tracking something in the infield. So another fun one to do, so stand about, yeah, right there, is 2-ball bounce pass. Same thing, tennis balls, so on. No, we're just right here. You got one? Awesome. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna bounce it, and when we catch it, we're gonna do exactly what Coach Stacy and the older guys are doing. We're gonna catch it with our left foot forward, we're gonna replace our feet and get ready to throw. It's really simple. So I'll count it down, and then you bounce. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2, 3. Okay? Just over and over again. Really easy. And then the last one we're gonna do, which we do in the basement sometimes, here's yours. Henry, can I borrow your glove? Thank you, sir. Is glove tennis. So all you need is a line, some cones, heck, we've used Pokemon cards, whatever you got to create a barrier, right? Just like tennis in a net. So you just get on your knees, and all you're doing is just with, you can get rid of that ball. Yep. With your glove, you're just playing tennis. Right? And then you set parameters, right? Can it bounce twice? Is there an out of bounds? No bare hands allowed. And just play, just have fun. But work on those glove skills. So be creative. And a lot of this stuff, if you follow people on social media or you like, there's lots of great things out there. Just play games with them. Play infield knockout, fly ball knockout, hitting games, BP contests, simulated games, whatever. Play games. Just let them compete. And then the last part is just keep it really simple. Don't overcoach them. Don't expect the young guys to be able to compete and understand like these guys. Start at the very basics and see if you can get them to do that. If you can get the partner drills down and if you can get them feeling in the right place, that's a huge win. If you can get them to not be afraid of the plate when they're young, that's a huge win. It doesn't matter whether they get hit or not, they're not bailing out and they're not worried. If you can get your catchers to stay in a stance the entire game, that's a huge win, right? So do the simple things, focus on it, create a goal of what it is that you want those kids to be able to do by the time the season's over or the practices or whatever it may be. And then just let them play and keep it really simple. And there may be things that you get burnt on. I mean, I know we've talked to the young groups about relays and stopping guys from taking extra bases. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, by the time they get to our age, if they want to try to run the bases that way, please, I'd love them to. That's completely fine by me because that'll get our team off the field faster, right? So focus on teaching our young guys the right way to play the game, and they'll be far more successful in the long run than trying to skirt the system or play to certain types of rules, right? Because at 8, 9U, so what if they win a championship or not? What we want them to do is be able to compete when they get older, and hopefully we can pass them on and let them keep playing the game because they're going to learn life skills. They're going to be able to go to college and get an education. They're going to be able to do some great stuff because of what they learned from you guys and through the game of baseball. So that's all I have to talk about. What questions do you have for any of us? What do you want to know?
Is this video gonna be posted anywhere?
I'm going to do my best. I make no promises. This is my first go at it, but I'll try. So what I hope to do is if you see there's a little QR code on there, you can give some feedback, but I'll take all the emails that I had from before and I'll do what I got to do to get that thing onto YouTube here in the next week or so. And then I'll just send it out to all those emails. And I know a lot of the coaches and stuff here are affiliated with WYBSL who can send it out to a bunch of people or like the Naturals or the Sharks or whatever. So the hope is to get it out as far as we can. I don't know if it's any good or not, but we gave it a shot. If not, I'll hire one of our tech ads to come over and do it next time.
Back to the pitching.
Yeah.
You see any benefit to the windup versus just pitching your stretch all the time? Personal preference, like comfort?
You get a little bit more out of it, but when they're young, just keep them in the stretch. It's simpler. And it's going to be, if they can master the stretch, they'll be fine in the windup.
What do they get out of the windup? What benefit does
So for me, you can get a little bit more dynamic out of the windup, right? Like I get more action going here now because I've got movement than out of the stretch. So on average, you lose probably a couple miles an hour on your fastball. You lose spin rate a little bit, so you less depth and break to your curveball. So that's why it's beneficial to be able to be a hitter with runners on base, right? While you stack your lineups and stuff that way, it's tougher to pitch out of the stretch. But if you can master the stretch, then the windup only becomes better. Right? We have a lot of guys that sometimes that movement is too much, and we fall into bad habits or get off balance and stuff like that. So they're stretch only guys. So if you can master the stretch and repeat those mechanics, that's what I would say, take care of that first before we get to the windup. But do you have to? No. I mean, you can look at a lot of the major league guys, and they either go from kind of like a hybrid, which they'll just be here to take a step back and get into it, or they'll just be straight out of the stretch. Just different ways of delivering the ball. Anything else? Okay, I'll try to stop this, but if you want to come over and ask questions or have anything,